Delia, is there any way you could give this girl your house? I'll make the rent payment on time. What about a sisterly discount of $50 each month? For two people, this house is too large. Given that your sister is expecting a large family, it would be better for the house if you gave it to her. I'm Delia, and I'm 35. My daughter, Nora, is 3 years old. My kid is the only member of my family. I have no regrets, though. I choose to believe that it was for the best. After high school, I accepted a job providing care. I genuinely loved my hubby. After a high school reunion 3 years ago, I began dating Hank, and we were married around a year later. I secretly nurtured affections for Hank throughout high school. When this was disclosed at the reunion, I felt so ashamed that I wanted to hide in a hole. But Hank called me when I got home. He said, "Did you really like me?" I impulsively said, "Yes." He said, "What about now?" "I still do," I said in response. Our relationship began at that point. We got married about a year later, and the following year we welcomed a beautiful daughter, Nora. Nora is incredibly cute and resembles her father exactly. She frequently resembles an angel in her peaceful sleeping state. I continued working while juggling childcare and employment to raise our child with my husband. My spouse abruptly vanished just before our daughter's first birthday. That day, it was completely dark in the room when I got home, and I could hear my daughter sobbing in the rear. A lawyer's business card and a signed divorce document were on the table in the living room. Nothing at all had indicated that my husband was going anywhere. I could have accepted if he had lost interest in me, but it was unthinkable to leave our kid home alone. He ought to have left her with someone, or at least brought her to his parents' house. Her voice trembled as she continued to cry. She must have been quite hungry since she drank her milk with unexpected vigor when I hastily prepared it. I changed her diaper right away because it was in bad shape. How long had she been abandoned? I wondered. My hubby didn't get in touch after that. We formally separated as the divorce process proceeded through the lawyer whose business card he had left. My lovely daughter, this little property I had purchased before to our marriage, and a pitiful sum of child support from my former spouse were all that remained of me. He abruptly vanished, which infuriated his parents. I really apologize for abandoning Delia and Nora in that state. He didn't even get in touch with us. I don't know what was going through his mind. They declared, I will never forgive him. Then they told me, "You're divorced and you might not want to have anything to do with us anymore. But if there's ever a time when there's no one to look after Nora, feel free to contact us. Work must be hard on you. It must be tough doing this alone. We're here if you need us, as long as it's not a bother to you." At first I hesitated, but realistically, it was a very helpful offer. I couldn't rely on my own parents due to various issues, so I decided to accept my in-laws' offer. Later, I found what I believed was my ex-husband's social media account and learned that he had been having an affair. The other woman had actively pursued him even after he married me, and it seemed she eventually succeeded in taking him away from me. On social media, there were many lemons from my ex-husband. Raising children is tough. Taking care of a baby makes me feel old. My daughter doesn't get attached to me. I want to escape this life. I can't take it anymore. The woman he had an affair with seemed to be a university graduate and a company employee. My ex-husband emphasized this on social media, saying she was the opposite of his high school graduate caregiver wife. Seeing that, anger welled up inside me. I looked into whether I could legally claim alimony. However, since I had already received a small amount of property division along with child support, it seemed difficult to claim more. I decided not to think about money anymore. Now I just needed to focus solely on raising my daughter. I had no room to spare for thoughts of my ex-husband. I set aside my pride, left my daughter with my in-laws during the day, and devoted myself fully to childcare after returning from work. Fortunately, my daughter has grown up smoothly without any major illnesses or injuries. That was the greatest happiness. At work, they considered my situation. Even in the midst of a severe staff shortage, they flexibly adjusted my shifts whenever my daughter was ill. Additionally, I received a lot of advice and help from colleagues who had experience with childcare. I am truly grateful for all the support I continue to receive in various ways. My daughter loved her grandparents very much. Sometimes she would turn away, pouting, when I came to pick her up. On the other hand, when I tried to go to work in the morning, she would resist being held by her grandmother and cry for me. It was confusing, but it also pleased me. Now that my daughter has turned 2 and started attending nursery school, we rely less on my in-laws. "It's a bit sad that she's going to nursery school now," said my mother-in-law. Although she felt lonely not seeing her as often, I believe it's not good to rely on my in-laws forever. At the nursery, there were surprisingly many single mothers like me raising children. Having similar circumstances made our conversations lively, and talking with each other often refreshed our moods. As we continued these daily routines, my daughter's 3rd birthday arrived. I gave her a beloved chocolate cake and the makeup set she had been looking forward to. We spent her birthday together happily. About 3 days later, exhausted from a night shift, I had dropped my daughter off at nursery and was soundly asleep on the sofa. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I usually ignored the doorbell unless I was expecting a delivery or had prior notice, as dealing with unexpected matters had become increasingly troublesome. However, that day, the ringing persisted, prompting me to get up and check the monitor. To my surprise, I saw my parents and sister, who I hadn't been in contact with for a long time, pressing the button. "Dia, it's Mom. Are you doing well? We've come because there's something we need to talk about. Your sister is getting married." My mother spoke with a joyful expression. She then urged my sister to speak. My sister, neatly dressed, said, "Hey, sis, it's been a while. We came to see your house today. What's the rush? It's hot outside. Can we come in? I also want to give you the wedding invitation." Reluctantly, I opened the door. Immediately, my parents brushed past me, commenting, "It's quite spacious, isn't it?" They made themselves at home. Inside, I couldn't grasp what was happening and tried desperately to stop them, but they paid no heed to my protests. There are 2 bedrooms, so it seems we could even fit a large bed. There's even a storage room. The kitchen pantry is included, and it looks like there's enough storage. They continued as they inspected each room. Becoming more agitated, I asked, "Weren't you supposed to just deliver an invitation? What are you doing looking around the house as you please? We're family. What's there to be troubled about?" My mother's ease in mentioning family left me momentarily speechless. There was no bond that could truly be called family between me and those 3. "Now that we've seen inside, what do you think?" My mother asked. "Yeah, it was your house, Dia, but I think it passes muster. He'll surely agree if it's this house. Just make sure to clean every nook and cranny before moving in. Then it's settled." Seeing me stunned, my mother turned back and said, "Dia, could you possibly hand over your house to your sister?" "What?" I replied. "I intend to pay the rent properly. How about $50 a month as a sisterly discount?" Here's what my mother was thinking. My sister wanted to start a new life in her own home with a person she loved as they got married. However, she had no savings and couldn't afford to build a new home. That's why they came to me. It seems my parents had secretly investigated and knew that I had just bought the house and was divorced, raising my daughter alone. This house is too big for just 2 people. It would be better for the house if you gave it to a sister who is planning to have many children. Isn't it hard for you, too, living in this house full of memories with your ex-husband? I'll take over and live here instead, for your sake. I'll pay rent so it's good, right? She said this so nonchalantly. The reason I distanced myself from my family was that I left home after graduating high school and getting a job. All 3 of them never thought of me as family. From my childhood through my student years, I was treated like I was invisible. The reason was clear. It was because my mother remarried. My current father was my stepfather, and there was a 7-year age gap between my sister and me. We have different fathers. When I was little, my father and mother were always arguing fiercely. I wanted them to get along and tried to mediate their fights. But one night, in a rage, my father threw my mother and me out of the house. My mother took me with her to her parents' house, and we lived there for about 2 to 3 years. As soon as my parents' divorce was finalized, my mother said, "I want to introduce you to David, a man who has been helpful to me at work." That man is now my father. The wedding ceremony was conducted with just the 2 of them. No relatives were invited, and I didn't even attend the ceremony. On that day, I was studying at home. When my mother registered the marriage, she was already pregnant. Soon after, my sister was born. However, even before my sister's birth, I was treated as if I didn't exist in the house. Initially, my stepfather made an effort to engage in conversation, but gradually he lost interest in me. Even when I spoke to him, his responses were cold, and he would not even look at my face. My mother's behavior was terrible, too. After she started living with my stepfather, she never met my eyes. Even when I was in the living room, they acted as if I wasn't there, talking only with each other. When they took a bath, they would close the hot water, even though I hadn't bathed yet. Initially, I thought they just wanted to enjoy their newlywed life, but that was not the case. Once my sister was born, both my father and mother prioritized her above everything else. I thought it was inevitable while my sister was a baby, but the situation remained the same as she grew up. One day, looking in the mirror, I realized something. My face closely resembled my father's. The resemblance had probably been strong since I was young. I think my mother felt annoyed by me after remarrying, as I reminded her of her ex-husband. It was the moment I realized why I was treated as non-existent in our home. My sister seemed to have a faint awareness of our situation. Perhaps that's why, when we were young, she used to share the snacks she received with me, giving me half. From the brand new set of pencils given only to her, she gave me one. She often expressed sympathy for me, saying, "I feel sorry for you, sister," and took care of me in various ways. I was comforted by such kindness from my sister and resolved to always cherish her. However, as she entered middle school, our relationship began to change. Whenever her parents bought her something new, she would immediately boast about it to me. "I got this too. They only buy stuff for me, not for you, huh? Do you want this?" "I already got one before, so I can give it to you," she would say. The way she looked down on me, as if a wealthy person pitying a poor one, was evident in her expressions and words. Initially, I thought it was my own jealousy shaping her words. But as it happened repeatedly, I realized that wasn't the case. She was mocking me, feeling superior. The moment I realized that the only support I had in my family was gone. No matter how much I wanted to avoid her, she would come to my room on her own, using our parents' love as a shield to brag. My parents continued to ignore me. When we joined club activities in school, I was often left without a meal, or the food just sat on the table, cold. At least it was in the fridge. Enduring such situations every day nearly broke my spirit. Feeling that I couldn't go on like this, I firmly decided I'll leave this house once I graduate from high school. That determination helped me get through my student life. In today's world, even a high school graduate can make it. I initially didn't choose caregiving as a job I particularly wanted. However, as I worked, I began to find fulfillment in it. Being less fortunate with family, the job was challenging but became a source of emotional support. My colleagues, both seniors and juniors, were all kind and dependable. Due to these circumstances, I had kept my distance from my family for a long time. Yet suddenly, they looked me up, came to my house without permission, rummaged through it, and made an unreasonable demand, like handing over the house for $50 rent. It made me question their common sense. I couldn't stand my sister's irrational attitude, thinking my belongings were hers. It's a house full of memories with my ex-husband, but it's a precious home that I worked hard to buy with the money I saved. It might be too big for two, but we like it here, so I have no intention of giving it to my sister. You should build your own house with your own money. Are you struggling that much financially? Just because you only graduated high school, you act all high and mighty. I'm a public servant, so I have more money than you. I'm just saying this house is too good for you, so you should leave. Isn't it said that caregivers don't earn much considering the work they do? Wouldn't you appreciate the rental income? Being a single parent, you must need the money, right? Don't talk to me about rental income of $50 a month. That's nowhere near enough to cover the mortgage repayments. Hey, you still have a mortgage. You should be the one to pay it off to the end. That's right, you bought it, so you should take responsibility until the end. Enough. I'm not giving this house to anyone, so leave. I don't even plan to attend the wedding. You've always been an unattractive child. Don't take it out on me just because I look so much like Dad. I snapped, carried away by emotion. I don't even think of you as my mother. Furious, my mother shouted back with 3 times the intensity. I managed to drive my mother out of the house, and my father and sister hurriedly followed her out. I watched them leave and slammed the door shut. Don't come here anymore. Leave me alone. I couldn't leave the spot until I saw them disappear. The harsh words showered on me by my family, whom I had not seen in a long time, brought back painful memories I had almost forgotten. The turmoil in my chest made me feel nauseous. However, I couldn't afford to take time off work, so I went to my job despite being sleep-deprived. Finally, when my day off arrived, the turmoil in my heart had not subsided. I left my daughter with my in-laws and hopped on a train alone to a certain destination. I went to a church famous for warding off evil. It was renowned nationwide, a bit far from home, but I went there desperately seeking a blessing for protection. At the church, I received a prayer to ward off misfortune. Although my daughter was grumpy about being taken to her grandparents' house on her day off, when I explained that I went to ask God to prevent any misfortune from befalling our home, her expression became intrigued. "What's misfortune?" she asked. "It means unexpected bad events." I asked for protection to keep our home safe from such things. "I want to pray to God too," my daughter said. Saying this, she sat on the sofa and began to pray softly. The following week, as usual, I picked up my daughter from nursery and did some shopping. On our way home, the moment I opened the front door of our house, I felt the presence of someone inside. I quickly moved my daughter away from the house, telling her to wait outside. Then I went back inside alone, grabbing an umbrella from the entrance. I heard some noises coming from the living room. Thinking it must be a burglar, I steeled myself, opened the living room door, and screamed. I didn't even know what I was yelling, but I frantically swung the umbrella around, raising my voice. "Yeah, Startled by my charging in with the umbrella, the person who fell backward was not a burglar, but my sister. "Why are you here?" That's my line. "You scared me. I'm the one who's shocked. What are you doing here?" Upon closer inspection, I noticed the living room window was broken. My sister had entered the house through that window. Moreover, she was rummaging through the cupboard. I frantically grabbed my smartphone. "Wait, who are you calling?" "The police. There's a burglar in the house." "I'm not a burglar." "If you're not a burglar, then what do you call breaking into a house through a window?" As if saying she wouldn't let that happen, my sister charged at me, trying to snatch away my smartphone. "Stay away." "Give me the phone." "Stop it, you thief." "I told you, I'm not a thief." "You are definitely a burglar." My sister and I were shouting nonsensical things at each other as we grappled. That's when it happened. "There's a thief. A thief. There's a bad person here." My daughter's voice could be heard from outside. Worried she had come home and quietly opened the front door, probably hearing the word thief. "Thief, thief, somebody help." My daughter was running around the neighborhood, screaming loudly. That sneaky little. When my sister tried to head outside towards my daughter, I grabbed her and desperately tried to prevent her from going outside. At that moment, our neighbors, Mr. Watson and Mr. Allen from across the street, came rushing into the house, wielding a baseball bat and a golf club, shouting loudly. Old Mr. Carter, who lives nearby and whose hobby is gardening, also entered through the living room window, holding large shovels in both hands. While I was tending to the garden flowers, I was truly grateful that I had greeted him before. I felt proud of myself for having established a conversational relationship with Mr. Watson and Mr. Allen. Building relationships with neighbors really is beneficial in such a situation. I was slightly moved and almost teared up. Perhaps realizing that her situation was hopeless, my sister stopped resisting and collapsed on the spot. Seeing this, the neighbors firmly restrained her. Worried about my daughter, I hurried outside, and Mrs. Watson was there, embracing her. The moment I saw my daughter's face, I felt relieved. I heard the sound of a police siren. My sister was handed over to the police by the neighbors and was being questioned in the police car. I repeatedly expressed my gratitude to the neighbors and hugged my daughter tightly. "So it's all thanks to you, Nora," I said. When someone said that, Nora shouted, "Begone, evil spirit." I wondered where she had learned such a phrase. Nora then began mimicking a pastor's gestures. This caused all the neighbors to start laughing, and the tumultuous atmosphere calmed down a bit shortly after. My pale-faced parents arrived. They must have been contacted by the police. Tears streaming down her face, my mother apologized and said, "Delia, just listen. Please help her pay off her debts." "Hey, what debts?" "She messed up with stocks." At that moment, everything that had happened clicked in my mind, including what I found out later. It appears that my sister got involved in stocks because her income was insufficient. The reason was her boyfriend. She wanted to impress him with gifts and meals, but her salary made that difficult. At that time, my sister saw a dubious advertisement claiming easy money could be made from stocks. She bought the product and began trading with enthusiasm, but the result was a loss. Still, she had already boasted to her boyfriend that she would build a new house for their married life. When she became desperate, she came to me asking for my house. After I turned her away, she continued trading stocks, saying, "Next time it'll be fine," and ended up accumulating a huge debt, which her parents eventually found out about. Ultimately, that led her to try to steal money from my house. Perhaps because I had always been an easy target to dominate since we were young, my sister may have become quite stubborn. "You don't care about me. Just give me the money without saying anything." I need to pay off my debts." She yelled, breaking into a house and stealing money just because we're family. It's still a crime, and whatever the circumstances, I have no money to give you. How dare you say that? I don't want to hear it from someone whose husband left her. I will be loved by my husband and have a happy family surrounded by children. You commit a crime and still say such things. Both of you, stop it now. Delia, don't be so harsh. She's your sister after all. Give her a little help. This person is not my sister. I'll let you, Mom and Dad, help her if you want to. To me, she's nothing. She's not family. Don't come near me, you thief. Be gone, evil spirit. My daughter, standing behind me, started mimicking an exorcism again. My parents, who were red-faced, approached my daughter, but were stopped by the police. All three of them were taken to the police station. I hadn't been concerned about what happened to my sister after that, but my mother came to my house a while after and said, "Please help Delia." I apologize for everything while asking for money. Even if you apologize, I can't forgive you. We are strangers now, so don't come to me for help. If you don't leave, I'll call the police again. With that, I turned my mother away. According to my mother, my sister's boyfriend found out about the burglary and her stock-related debts and ran off. The rumors even spread to her workplace, and she was forced to resign. Since then, the three of them have disappeared. Curious and wanting to avoid being seen, I passed by my parents' house and saw it was up for sale. According to the neighborhood gossip, they may have fled in the night. I wonder if it was the blessing from the church known for warding off evil, or was it the effect of my daughter's exorcism? The disappearance of the three of them so suddenly did feel a bit eerie, but perhaps it was fate, given the already frail ties of our family. Afterwards, my daughter became completely engrossed in playing a pastor, often mimicking exorcisms even at nursery school. Next time there's a chance, I would like to capture that in a photo.